What's up, guys? So I have put out a short video already giving a very minimal showcase of this UI. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on it here, give you a little bit of a rundown of what exactly is going on with your screen here. I'll show you it working for a tank, a healer, DPS, and in various scenarios, raids, dungeons, delves, what have you. So starting off here, I'm just going to give you a rundown of what is actually on our screen here. So unlocking my cursor from combat mode so I can get around here. We have our mini-map obviously down in the corner. Nothing super fancy with that. It's a mini-map, nothing crazy. You will notice that most of this UI is hidden until I select a target. So let's just grab this Isle Gull up here. And you can see once I select that, more stuff starts to come into view. Just our health bars and our health bars alone are handled by SUF. Everything else is done through either a weak aura, or in the cases of our buffs and debuffs, it's handled by an add-on called Raven. If I switch over and select myself now, you can see all of the debuffs and buffs on the target. Granted, there are no debuffs right now. But we have our target power here, a little bit of information about your target, name, level, things like that. If you have a guild, it will show up here as well. We have our target of target, our portrait, basically all the necessary information that you need. And you'll see the same stuff down here on the player frame. Party frames will look very similar as well. You'll see those later on. At the data bar on the top, we have our clock, our spec. This really doesn't need to be here. You can remove it if you want. I like it up there, so I leave it. We have our coordinates up here, zone information, just some technical stuff up here in this corner. Not completely necessary. I like to have it there. You can remove it if you want. This is just a volume control. You left click it to bring it up, right click it to bring it down. We have our durability here and our eye level right on hand. And then your micro menu is crammed up here in the corner as well. Now on to the action bars. So that's handled by Bartender. The way that this is actually set up is that once I get into combat, the bars will all appear. If you mouse over them, they'll come up. There is another setup for these bars. So if you go into Bartender, I'll show you really quick here. Profiles, we have our default profile, which is what every add-on should be set to for this, this UI setup. However, if you change it to the setup UI, it's the same exact thing, they're just permanently visible. So if you're trying out a new spec, or if you're getting used to your action bars, you can go into this setup, and it will just leave everything visible for you. So you don't have to worry about your bars being hidden, you don't know what ability is where, it's just all there. But I'm going to go ahead and swap that back. So we have our cast bar here. What you'll notice on this is I don't have an actual bar. There is a ring that will go around this crosshair in the middle. So when I mount up here in a second, nice and easily visible. I have used that bar in scenarios where there's a lot of crap on your screen and you can still see it very clearly. So I like that. All of our zooming, camera offsets, and all that kind of stuff is handled by Dynamic Cam. Everything is automated as far as your camera goes. We'll get a little bit more into that later when I start going in and out of buildings to show you some more of that. But we're going to jump down here and get into some really quick combat just to kind of show you how shit functions. So, for those of you that don't know what combat mode does, and that is like the core of this UI here, it basically keeps your cursor always active, I guess is the best way to put it. So normally how you would have to click and drag your screen to move around, it just does that normally. That is the new default state of your mouse look. And what that does is it frees up your left and right clicks for actual abilities or other functions within the game. So the other thing that this does is it uses mouse over targeting. So whatever target is in my crosshair is what I will be using my abilities on. So if you look at these guys right here, right, I don't have an actual target selected. However, if I just mouse over them and start using abilities, it will magically hit. Now, by default, your AoE abilities, like the volley that I just used, will not strike at your mouse over. I have to macro a bunch of those. So stuff like volley or what else uses those rings off the top of my head here? Like your Vile Taint as a warlock. I believe the Mass Barrier does that for a priest, but any of those style abilities, I would highly suggest making a mouse over macro for those. And you can see here when I jump on my mount, all the camera functions are totally automated. You can also see in the middle of my screen there just now that I have the cooldowns right slightly off to the right-hand side of the screen, but they're centered so the information is readily available, easily visible. Skywriting bar has been completely altered to be a little less conspicuous, but still give you the valuable information that you need. The way I have some of these combat mode functions set up here, I'll give you a quick rundown on that. So I use an account-wide binding. It's same thing for every character that I play. But you'll see I have my base clicks for action buttons 1 and 2, which is why you don't see an actual key binding on my steady or arcane shots. Shift clicks, same thing for the next bar down. Readily available CC right here. Control and Alt clicks are where it gets a little bit more functional here. If you need to have a hard target, instead of trying to cycle through tab targets, I just do a control left click and that will automatically target whatever is in my crosshair. A control right click is going to clear it. These are just my default setups. You can change this to anything you want and have it play however you feel. Alt clicks, same thing, a little bit more technical. So my alt right click is going to be an interact. So that'll be attacking your target, speaking with a vendor, talking to another NPC. You can change it to a million other things too. If there's something more practical for you to have on that button, go right ahead and change it. We also heavily rely on OPI here with this setup. So what you'll see is I have various rings for stuff that is used enough that it needs to be readily available or should be readily available, but they're not as important as stuff that's going on your action bars. So if we look at this one, for instance, one of the default rings that I've modified, this is like your spec and travel rings, so your hearthstones are here. Normally your teleports and portals are here for a mage, but I've moved those to a different bar. So flight style's in here. I have a giant ring of pets. Totally unnecessary, but I like to have them there. I also have a giant ring of nothing but toys. Again, super unnecessary, but I like to have them there. You can put whatever the hell you want on these rings. Let's see, we have a general utility ring. So I keep here our collections, utility mounts. So I got my Yak, my Brutosaur, the rarely used aquatic mount. Yeah, I have flight style in here twice. I guess I'll pull it off of this one. But Warband Bank, Professions, stuff like that will all be in here. These two are a couple of macros you guys don't need to worry about. Those will be taken out before I release it. And then we have our class utility section. So this is all my hunter like pet stuff on here. Warlock demon summoning, your lock closet, your health stones, resurrections for healer classes, or if you have a battle res like a DK or something like that, that would be on this ring. I'm probably going to add the druid shapeshifts into this ring. I haven't fully decided on that one yet, but those will probably end up in this ring. Again, more stuff that you can very easily change on your own if you want. And then we have our quest item ring. Nice to have those readily available instead of having to search through my bags for quest items. So what I'm going to do next is take a little bit of a break here for a second. When I come back in, we are going to jump in a dungeon, and I'll actually show you all this stuff in action. So I will tell you, in multi-target situations as a caster or sometimes even a hunter, you can have a little bit of trouble keeping a consistent target. For that reason, I do recommend using just your standard tab targeting when you have multiple things you're trying to switch between, unless they're a little bit more spread out. If they're really condensed, it's going to be a pain in the ass.
AOE incoming. Watch your step. Yeah.
So you can kind of see a little bit of what I'm talking about here. When they're a little bit more spread out, it's easier to deal with, but when they start clumping together, you'll notice I have a little bit of trouble keeping that target on point. So I've just switched over to a hard tab target so I can make sure I actually get my dots up where I need to. So one of the other things that can be a little bit tricky here is going to be healing. There are a couple of different ways that you can approach it. I usually like to hard target my party members with keybinds. You can just click cast on the frames if you want. And combat mode does support mouse overcasting with the crosshair, but that can be very hard as a healer. I'll give you a quick run through couple sections of a dungeon and kind of show you how it plays out.
I'm out of range.
What now? Nice jet. Now get a move on. All parts accounted for.
Interesting. Watch yourself. Well, well, well. See you around.
Gallywix! It doesn't have to end here!
Oh, save me the mush! The Horde made you soft!
Roman coming. Watch your step.
So while we wander the streets of Stormwind here for a minute, I am just going to let you guys know that when I made that original setup video, I did include import codes for both the Weak Aura Pack and SUF. I will be uploading the Weak Aura Pack to Wago, and the link for that will be in the description. If I can find a place to upload the SUF code, I will. I don't know if there's a place I can do that. If you know of one other than just throwing it in my file pack, let me know. And with that, we are going to get out of here. Have fun, guys.